Welcome back to the ZERT Coffee and Chaos Podcast, the show where we talk about anything and everything relating to what it means to be a survivalist and a prepared individual in today's society. I'm your host, Chris Bartagone, ZP002. Today, special guest, old school ZERT, back in the house, Tyler.
Yeah.
Instructor. Hey, Mr. Great. Tyler, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming. Oh.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I actually don't remember my number. I think it was 4, maybe.
Four. It was 4.
Oh, aha. All right.
It was 4. Look at that. It's been a long time.
I wasn't 100% sure, but that was my gut instinct. So it's been,
it's been pretty wild because as of late, and I don't know how much you do with YouTube, but as of late, the czars over at YouTube have been sending me
the
emails. The czars, the Gestapos, the higher ups there, taking down videos from a decade ago. Well, they violate our community services, and I get it. YouTube changed their community guidelines about full auto stuff, and back in the day, they worked was working with Surefire, and there was a lot of full auto videos, and they're literally taking it down after a decade. It's like, come on. But as I was going through some of the videos, I came across a couple of old videos of you up there talking about some stuff. There were some shorts that were part of a couple of series that Aaron had done in the past. But man. And then there's the most popular video to date, which was the Nat Geo, the pilot for surviving the apocalypse.
That's we should talk about that because because I don't know how well the story around that, but it's funny because I'm sure you've watched it, and it's funny because I was just talking to somebody about that show, and they were like, a show like this would be cool, and I was like, well, we did that show, and they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, exactly what you just explained, we did. And I showed them the I kind of went through the episode, and they're like, well, what happened? The structure makes sense, the format, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what happened? I don't know if you know what happened. And obviously it's more complicated than this. But the short version, at least that I heard, is, there's a lot of guns in that episode. I mean, the Smith, I think their name was Smith, family was, civil unrest. So they're running around with freaking ARs most of the episode, right? And what happened was we filmed it all, and Sandy Hook happened. That was what crushed, like, at that point. I mean, the pushback on anything, I mean, I'm sure you remember gun related, especially assault rifle related, was probably the most intense that I can think of ever, at least in my lifetime. So they if I remember correctly, they screened it like midnight on a Sunday or something crazy. They literally just aired it because I'm pretty sure it was contractually obligated, but they buried it. They straight it. So I mean, it was conceptually, it was there.
I mean, great. And they should, it should definitely come back. I mean, something like that should come back. And, it's funny because, when Aaron and I talked around 2021 2022 about, it was 21. It was 21 about me buying ZERT. ZERT had typically been very firearm focused and very firearm centric up until that. It was, that's what all of the classes were. Obviously there was other stuff, and there was other stuff that they tried to kind of sprinkle in, but I wanted to bring a different light to it because with the evolution of social media and what you can and can't do, I wanted to make it so where we could put stuff out and content out that was for the everyday suburban soccer mom that understands why it's important to have a medical kit or a medical bag in her car, and to have a plan should you get into an accident and your cell phone gets destroyed, right? Everybody's first thing is, oh, I'll just call 911. Okay, well, what happens if you can't call 911? What is your, what's your go-to, what's your plan? But yeah, it was a shame that didn't really get to the full amount of episodes that it should have. Obviously, it only had one, but it's so funny, dude. I was looking at the analytics for that video, and in the last 28 days, it's been viewed 89 times. And still to this day, and we got new subscribers to the YouTube channel from that video. So it's still out there and it still gets traction. I'll probably have to do a little bit of a reel for it and put it out there and see what other kind of trends are.
Well, I'm just happy that the rights reverted back to, originally Aaron and then you, from Nat Geo. Nat Geo. The other thing I forgot to mention, by the way, is Nat Geo, if I remember correctly, ZERT, obviously, we all know what the name was based on. And so there was the whole zombie element at the end. There was two, actually. There was the chainsaw on the gun joke. And then there was the bleeding zombie targets at the end of the Smith family's mission, for lack of a better term. And it's just funny because I remember, they knew, we told, the sizzle reel had a lot more zombies. I don't know if you have that up, but the sizzle reel had a lot more zombie stuff. But the point that I'm making is, I don't know if you know this, but I remember Nat Geo came back prior to air date. I think this was before Sandy Hook, and was like, hey, we can't say zombie on the show. And Aaron was like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, so Nat Geo is what's the word, is in their bylaws, for lack of a better term, they're governed by I think it's the National Geographic Society, something like that, right?
Okay.
So they have these rules. They have these rules that they have to follow, whatever. And one of the rules is they can't promote anything that doesn't officially exist, or some, I'm paraphrasing. And so they're like, so we can't mention zombie on the channel. And I just remember thinking, guys, you are the stupid fucks that, you know what I mean? Like, you guys approved this show. You guys knew what it was.
Right.
And now we're 6 months into this, and you're suddenly realizing that you can't mention a word that we filmed 100 times on the episode. Like, what level of incompetence is this? This is unbelievable, and now I know that's just Hollywood in general. But, but at the time I was like, how are we finding this out now, right? So if I'm not mistaken, I think they had to remove the Z word from every mention in the episode.
And it's so it's just insane. I mean, it's just wild. It's funny. We'll talking about Hollywood. I'm sure we're going to get into it because it's part of your last 10 plus years. So we're definitely going to talk about that. I was actually just texting back and forth with Taryn earlier today because I just saw the trailer for the new ballerina thing coming out there, and he's talking about the butchering that they did to that movie, and and he says that there's some hope with some of the new studios out there, Mark Wahlberg, Mel Gibson. Obviously, we know where they kind of lie when it comes to Hollywood, and there's a lot of crap that we've heard, but it's just, like, we're just trying to make good entertainment. That show is going to be a great reality-based show. I mean, it would have been very fun and very lighthearted, and it had to get ruined, but what are you going to do?
It's funny that you're mentioning that. I was thinking about it this morning, and I actually worked on a project for Vet TV last night. I filmed a thing for them last night, and Vet TV is doing what they're doing because they control their own financing and they control their own distribution.
Okay.
So they basically can do whatever the hell they want because they control the money and they control the, where it goes to. And therefore that allows them to deliver exactly what they want to their audience, and obviously their audience is going to tell you what they want based on if they subscribe or not, or, whatever.
Right. Yep.
But, It's back in the day, you had some people you had creative people, and the creative people went, hey, we have an idea. And the business people went, okay, how much you need to do this idea? And they said this bunch. They said, okay, we're going to make that work. Here's the money. Go do the idea. We'll figure out how to market it, blah, blah, blah. That's no longer how the process works.
No.
The way the process works now is I have an idea. All right, great. You got to get money from approval from all these people who are business people, who are not creative people.
Yeah.
And then when I say not creative, I mean shockingly not creative, not creative at all. That being said, I can't do their job. I can't deal with numbers, finances, things like that. That's not my jam. But these are not creative, artistic people who are storytellers. And so, but everyone, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a terrorist in Jalalabad right now. That terrorist, mark my words, that terrorist in Jalalabad has an idea for a movie. I promise you. I have an idea, right?
Right. Yeah.
So everyone, I don't care who you are, have an idea. In fact, I'm going to tell a story. I don't think I've ever told this story.
All right.
I don't think I even tell this in the book. I just thought of it because it's so funny. I'll never forget this for as long as I live. But I need to look and figure out what the movie was, because I've just never. I'm pretty good with movies, but I'd have to. The guy's got a lot of films, so I'd have to go through and figure it out. But I was in Iraq, and I don't know. I think it was Baghdad. To be honest, I don't remember, but actually, I'm pretty sure it was Baghdad.
Okay.
And I don't know which deployment, but I came in on the roof. I can't remember if we climbed up, landed on a helo. Again, I don't remember.
Right.
I think it probably wasn't a helo, because the guy would have been gone if it was. So we probably climbed up on the roof, came in on the cupola, and so we. I can't remember if we breached the door or I can't remember how we got in. Anyways, however we did it, we came in and surprised the guy. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. I come in, I think I was first, and I come into this guy's bedroom, and I saw him just like a flash go around this, leave his bed and go around this corner.
Yep.
And as I'm coming around the front of the bed to basically follow him through that doorway, I catch a TV that was, in front of the bed on a dresser or whatever. And it's Samuel L. Jackson chasing a bad guy out of his bedroom. It's wild. Like I catch it's almost the scene that's happening,
it's right while it's happening.
I just remember going around the corner, seeing it, and then seeing the movie and the guys chasing it. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is crazy ironic. Like, right before I came in, he's like watching this movie of, Samuel L. Jackson.
God, that's so funny. Now I want to know what movie it is.
That's the problem. Samuel L. Jackson's been in like 150 freaking movies. So
exactly. I don't know. It could have been Shaft.
I don't know. I don't know if it was a criminal or a terrorist. I don't know. I just remember him doing almost the exact same action. I remember clocking it, being like, that's highly ironic. But
that's wild.
But it's a crazy process in the industry now. And that being said, I am very confident that good times are coming, because Hollywood hasn't figured out that it's a dinosaur and the meteor's already hit. They haven't realized that they're very soon going to be. I don't need Hollywood for distribution.
Right. And that's important.
Distribution, the ability for one person with a computer to create. I mean, you just had a guy, create, I think in Blender, a full length animated feature that crushed the one with the cat. I forget. I don't know what it's called, but there's some movie out right now that's like a cat, and the guy created the whole thing like with like a team of people in Blender. Wow. Yeah, but that's where it is now. In 5 years, you're going to be able to talk to a computer, and it's going to make a movie. And you're not going to need a crew. You're not going to need Hollywood. And then, but what do you do with it? Well, there's this thing called YouTube.
Yeah.
You're going to have the ability for AI, create me an app that's just like YouTube, but it's just my stuff. Okay. Done.
Now,
And people,
I mean, I got to tell you,
yeah.
we've talked about AI before. I mean, on this show, you know, it is a very dangerous and very scary thing. What's about to, you know, what is going to eventually come out with AI? It's happening now. I was just watching. I was somebody's reel on Instagram, and it was a female, and she was saying that somebody took her image. She was in a bikini. Somebody took her image. They ran it through AI, removed the clothing, and started pushing that out as that she was out there. And it's just like, you know, she's trying to fight to get it taken down.
Yeah.
AI is, and I know that that's what I believe that's what the strike was all about a couple of years ago, right? Where
Well, that was a part of it.
part of it with not needing actors.
Yeah,
They didn't need they could go recreate it, but yeah. So let's go back a little bit. Let's take a walk back in time here and jump. So your time, go ahead. Sorry.
Real quick. I want to mention something based on you said. Mark my words.
Yeah.
Mark my words. The upcoming tech advancements are going to happen at a rate that people cannot currently perceive.
Yeah.
The level of fear that is coming, and this isn't me fear mongering.
No.
I'm speaking reality here.
Right.
The level of fear that is going to come within, I'd say, I don't think it's really going to start for about 2 years.
Okay.
But I think, and it'll happen pre-AGI, which I obviously, you know, artificial general intelligence. But I think about between 2 to 5 years, things are going to start happening that are going to generate a level of fear that I don't think we've ever seen before. I think it will be because the advancements are going to start happening at a rate that people can't keep up with perceptionally. And it, you know, I live literally 5 minutes from Anduril. I'm sure you know who Anduril is, which will be a household name in under 5 years. I mean, they're Stark Industries, as far as I'm concerned. I know of certain things that are not out, but are work and are in a laboratory test phase.
Yep.
People have no idea. Guns in 5 years, maybe not 5 years. Guns in 10 years will be something that people don't even. The level of fear from drones and robots will so far surpass. Here's one. When is the first murder going to happen by drone?
Well, I don't think that's very far away. And that's what's really scary.
And again, I'm not condoning the actions of the person that I'm about to say right now.
Okay.
But old freaking Mario and Luigi, right?
Yeah.
If that dude would have used a drone, he wouldn't be in jail today.
No, he would not.
No one would have it. There would be no way for him to have gotten caught. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I mean, he actually used quite a lot of technical proficient 3D printer suppressor, you know.
Right. Yeah.
He did some technically pretty proficient stuff.
Yeah. And that was a man who just got pushed too far. And it was just over the system. You know, like you hear about some of the people that are coming out in support of his legal defense, like literally paying for his legal defense. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And again, no one's condoning what he did, but I guarantee you that you ask the majority of people and they get it. They don't condone it, but they completely get it.
Well, you know, it's like great movie. And I'm going to mention this movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it today. You're going to know the movie, Falling Down.
Oh, Kurt Russell. Great, amazing.
Kirk Douglas.
No, yes. Yes, you're right. Kirk Douglas. You're right. You're right.
But,
no, Michael Douglas.
Fuck, you're right. Sorry.
Kurtz's father.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Dude.
Awesome haircut.
What a movie. That movie, when I watched it, I was like, this is a great film. And I got it when I was younger, when it came out. I remember being like, but the more time goes by, the more I'm like, dude, this movie was so far ahead of its time.
Oh, it really, really was. I mean, there's and you know, that was the other thing that we were talking about this morning. And I knew that today's show was kind of going to go all over the place because there's so much that we can talk about, and that's great. Like, I love it. This is what I love to do, these shows and kind of just free flow with it. But that was the kind of the conversation that happened earlier today. Like, they're just not making anything original anymore, anything good. There was that other movie that came out with Russell Crowe, where he was extremely overweight and he was just road rage happened. Gosh, I can't think of the name of it right now. Oh, but he went crazy in the car and Unhinged.
I think it's called. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I think it's called Unhinged. And female driving cuts this guy off and immediately creates a whole entire movie of this guy stalking her. I just did a show a couple weeks ago about an incident that I had here on a Saturday night. And, we did the show and people were replying to it. Lou from Pennsylvania was just like, that's a great situation. What would you do in this situation, where a car cuts you off and then starts like trying to race you and almost cuts you off and almost hits a pedestrian on the side of the road at 9 o'clock at night. And I mean, that went a little bit farther away from where we were talking about Hollywood but there's not very good movies that are coming out anymore. Marvel did great things in their first phase or first few phases, and now they're just throwing out junk left and right, and it's just horrible to see.
It's sad. It really
is. It is.
Disney has, I mean, dude, you own Marvel and fucking Star Wars.
Right. Yeah.
For the love of God, how are you messing that up? How?
And they are.
I know how. I already explained it earlier. You got business people in charge of creative. That's literally backwards.
Yeah.
If creative, this is the crazy thing that I don't understand about Hollywood. It's not that hard to do it right.
No,
it's really not. And look, people can say whatever it's not that easy. I'm going to do it right. Then you're going to watch the success that I have from doing it right. And then you're going to go, oh, that's the way. I'm telling you, I've told people for 10 years, do it this way. No one listens. They all think they know better. And here's the thing that no one says. I can prove that Hollywood doesn't know anything about anything. I can prove it.
Okay. Lay it out there.
I shouldn't say Hollywood doesn't know anything about anything. That sounds arrogant. I don't mean it that way. I can prove that the people in charge don't know what the audience wants. And here's how I can prove it.
Okay.
Because if they did, they wouldn't have failures. The fact that failures exist prove that they don't definitively know what the audience wants. Here's the way the business model currently works. John Wick comes out. Now, we're going to use 3 movies. John Wick, we're going to use Deadpool, and we're going to use John Wick, Deadpool. There was one other one. John Wick, Deadpool. I'm sorry. There's another one that I was trying to that barely huge movie barely got made. So Deadpool, the studio scared shitless, pulled all of its money, kept pulling money. A lot of people don't know this, but the scene where he left the guns in the taxi cab.
Yeah.
Like, my ammo bag, shit, gonna have to do it old school with swords, right? That scene.
Yep.
That was not the scene. Originally written was this massive gunfight.
Oh, really?
Massive gunfight. The studio kept pulling funding. So he's like, dude, we got to cut the gunfight. So they rewrote it geniusly to freaking say he left his guns.
Right.
Genius rewrite.
Yeah.
But originally it was supposed to be this massive gunfight. So the studio kept pulling money. Okay.
Yeah.
And Deadpool comes out. It's a massive success.
Oh, yeah.
If you go watch YouTube videos, go watch podcast interviews, almost every single massive success has a story on how everyone told him it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Rocky, never going to work with Stallone. Never going to work. Everyone told him no.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
They don't know.
That's a horrible story, though, about Rocky, that script, and what like selling that script for what he did and then try to get it back, and they wouldn't, they wouldn't sell it back to him. But
the Rocky script?
Yeah. There's a story out there where he sold that script basically to get the movie made.
Yeah, well, he sold it for almost nothing.
Yeah.
But so the requirement for the script is they wanted to pay him a shit ton of money. Actually, so here's the way it worked. They were going to pay, I forget, this is also a long time ago, but
yeah, of course,
equivalent wise, it was a lot of money that they were willing to pay him. They loved the script.
Yep.
What they were 100% against was him starring as the lead.
Yeah.
So the compromise that eventually was made was that he would sell the script to next to nothing, but they would allow him to star in it.
Yeah.
Which, if you really think about it, was a pretty good deal for both, which obviously worked out. They both made a shit ton of money, but that lowered their risk and it gave him the opportunity. I mean, Stallone simply, I love Stallone because the guy bets on himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The guy bets on himself repeatedly. Dude, I can do this. I love Arnold's another guy, repeatedly bets on himself.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of people like that, but just two of them. Mel Gibson, another guy that dude, Passion of the Christ.
Yep. Yeah.
No one wanted to make that movie. No one.
Yeah.
He became, I'm not sure, but I think he damn near became a billionaire because he was forced to self-fund it.
Yeah.
Which when it made, I believe, $1 billion, no studio made the money because he's the one that put all the money. So these stories, so the Passion of the Christ is a great one. Actually, the Passion of the Christ is a bad one, but I'll use John Wick. John Wick's the best example. Okay. John Wick, I don't know if you know this. You can look it up. It's a true story. I believe the Friday before John Wick is supposed to start filming on a Monday. On Friday, somebody pulled like $5 million out of funding. Too risky. This is not going to work. We're out. So now they're missing, it's called gap. They're basically gap. They need gap financing to finance this gap before they start production on Monday. It goes out to all these people. No one gets involved. Somehow some dude is like, I'm going to go find the money. Guess who comes in with the money?
Who was it?
Eva Longoria.
Really?
Yeah. Again, look it up. It's a true story. Eva Longoria gets connected with like her business manager. Is just like, I think it was her business manager was like, this, I'm telling you, this is going to work. Just, you need the money, invest in this, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, I trust you. And she just kind of was like, okay. She took a risk,
That is awesome.
I would be hard pressed to I'm pretty confident to say that she's probably never made and never will make a better investment in her life. I'm pretty confident to say that. But but the point that I'm making is that's how scared they were. That's how risk averse they were. That's how worried they were that it was going to be a failure. And then the point is, what happens after John? So John Wick comes out, no one's seen anything like it.
Right.
Because it was new, because it was different. So what does Hollywood do? This is what the audience wants. And then they make 1,000 movies exactly like it. Yeah.
And quite frankly, and this is going to hurt a lot of people, they butcher the sequels. I mean, that first one was great. I love it.
John Wick has gone downhill after the first one. There's no doubt.
And then
but again, it kind of has to. Very few sequels get better. Very few sequels.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. Now, with the exception, and this is going also, like, I think Rocky, remove Rocky 5 out with Tommy Morrison, get that one gone. But 1, 2, 3, and 4, like, I enjoyed all of those. And then the older ones, when you brought him back as Creed. I mean, there was a way to close out the story, but 1, 2, 3, 4, I enjoyed it. You're right. There's never really a good sequel.
Well, I mean, it's rare. I mean, Empire.
Yeah. Well, Empire is
right. I will say, I'm going to make a prediction right now. There's a sequel coming out that is better than the original. I'm very confident to say that. People should check it out, and I'm promoting it because I worked on it. So I'm
okay. What is it? Can we talk about it?
The Accountant 2. Yeah. It's
better than the. I mean, the first one was great. I loved the first one. I didn't realize you did that. So okay.
Screw it. I'm 100%. It's better than the original. But awesome. I can tell you why. I'll tell you why in a very simple way. And this is nothing against Anna Kendrick. But Anna Kendrick isn't in the sequel, which you can look it up on IMDb.
Yep.
I'm not giving anything away. So you take her character out, which she's great in the first one, but you take her character out. You know, in the first movie, John and Ben don't link up till the very end of the movie, right? In this one, they spend over half the movie together.
Good.
So, and again, I'm not giving anything away, but they spend a lot of time together. And they are fire on screen. I mean, John's a animal.
He's great. He is absolutely great.
I love Ben. Ben is a dude. Ben's a dude is a fucking genius. One of the smartest people I've ever met.
Yeah, listening to him,
huge. He's huge.
Like, as in,
dude, Ben Affleck is a big fucking guy.
Big dude. Yeah,
dude, he's like, he's like an inch and a half tall. I'm not small, and he's like he's got to be almost 6'3". He's a big guy. Yeah, I was like,
so when they announced him to play Batman in what's his name is Justice League, Zack Snyder's. Yeah. Like, everyone had problems with that. I was like, have you seen the dude? He's jacked in that. Like, he was great for that movie. And you're right, he is obviously a very tall guy. Speaking of like, I mean, there's a couple out there. So Alan Richardson, who's
I just did a movie with him for Netflix. He's a big dude too. Well, he's bigger than
right. He's a big dude, and the dude that plays his antagonist in this season of Reacher makes him look small. He's 7 foot. The guy that plays it is 7'2", ducking into rooms. But you know,
Alan's big. The other guy that was big, Gerard Butler. Gerard Butler's
he's a big guy.
He's bigger than he looks.
Yeah, obviously, I just saw Den of Thieves 2, and first one was really good. I love the first one. Second one was not as awesome. Exactly, was a sequel. So so let's take that walk down memory lane. So you were in the military before your time in ZERT, right? What you went in 98?
Yeah.
And you were in for 10 years?
Under that, I forget exactly. It was almost 10 years. Okay. I looked at my DD exactly.
And Army and Ranger, and then eventually Delta, right? Awesome. I got a good buddy of mine who is also a former Delta kind of guy, and I get to do some fun stuff with him every once in a while. And I met him a while back when I first started working in the industry, and we became kind of just connected through the company that we were both a part of. Like, he was a sponsor he's promoted the product, and then eventually I brought him over to another company that I was working with.
I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah, so Sergeant Major retired Kyle Lamb. And I was down there last year. We went to go film a couple of videos, and I got to make a knife with him. But you know, one of the coolest things in my time in this industry is getting to call that guy a friend, and you know, having dinner with Melinda and you know, knowing Lucas pretty well. And so you had some experience with him over in the past, right? I guess.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know Kyle. Kyle, we were in different, you know, subgroups, so rarely saw him, you know, at work. You know, he was also a much higher rank than me at that time. But I also, you know, I mean, you know this, I'm a gun fanatic, like truly a gun fanatic, and most military guys aren't, regardless of the in, you know, it's a tool, and that's kind of it, you know. I'm a gun nerd. I could talk about fucking show machine gun from World War I, you know, like worst machine gun ever made.
So then let me ask you, or go ahead, finish your point.
No. Well, I was just going to say, you know, but I knew, because Kyle had his, you know, sling and his kind of gun stuff. I like him and Larry, I was very aware of, you know, Larry was doing custom 1911s, you know, years before I even got there. So I was very aware of who Kyle and Larry were, because of their what they were doing in the gun industry separate from they started their businesses long before they got out.
Oh yeah. So then let me ask you this question, because you're a gun guy, and we've had this topic has come up numerous times in the last 2 weeks. What do you think about SIG's P320 situation? Are you tracking on that?
Well, I am aware that apparently there's been problems, and I'm aware that people are giving them a lot of shit. That's about. I don't know more than that.
Yeah, I mean, the internet's roasting.
Is there more to it than
well,
that?
Yeah, you know, the bottom line is SIG made a statement that they didn't have to 2 weeks ago on a Friday now about, you know, the truth about the P320. And it's weird that they used that. They took that stance. Like, they didn't draw a line in the sand. They drew it in concrete, and then they dried it so it would never go away. Like, they basically said, this gun cannot fire without the trigger being pulled. And there are multiple videos of the gun discharging without the trigger being pulled, meaning it's in a holster and it goes off. Now, do we know everything about the firearm and the ammo that's there? No, we don't, but it's happening. And we just did a show about this yesterday, which will air. My problem, I love SIG. I do. I love the brand. I have a P3.
I'm the same. I mean, I think the 365 is one of the better guns debatably ever made. I mean, look, the 365, like, I'm just going to say this, dude, I literally probably own 50 Glocks, and that's no shit. And I used to have more, but I love Glock. I've been a Glock shooter for a long time. Glock hasn't innovated jack shit. It's 1982. Straight up. Right. You know, like, dude, you change colors and call it a new gun. Fuck you. Come on.
Right. You remove the finger grooves.
They're based in Austria. You know what I mean? Like, but you know, Glock USA needs to step up, straight up. SIG, Glock was asleep at the wheel, and SIG has stepped up. I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to assume Kyle had a lot to do with that. I don't know that 100%, but I don't see how he didn't. But either way, SIG has hired some former unit guys, and in my knowledge, dude, they have done some amazing. I mean, SIG, just the ability to drop the trigger, that whole genius,
right?
Absolute genius.
I mean, so much so that they started it, and now people are following in suit, right?
It's like everything. Well, it's look at, you know, and again, I'll you know, Gaston Glock, dude. Gaston Glock was an innovator. There's no question about it. And I know quite a bit about the history of Glock. Actually, the book Glock is a pretty damn good book, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay,
dude. If you've never read it, read that book, and then I'll recommend this to everyone. I think it's called just Glock. I'll send you a link, and you can post it.
Sure. We post it in the comments below,
dude. It's a great book. The writer is a journalist, and dude, I don't know who this guy is. Look him up, because I read the whole damn book. I don't know if the guy's pro-gun or anti-gun. I honestly don't know.
That's great.
He gives both sides. Like, in my opinion, a journalist should be impartial and just give both sides. He really does. But dude, the story's pretty amazing, but I recommend that book. But my point being is, Gaston Glock was an innovator. And dude, SIG there's been a lot of innovative stuff they've done. I mean, in the last, I don't know, 10-ish years. I mean, dude, look, I'm going to piss off a lot of SEALs right now, but the 226 is a piece of shit. I'm sorry.
Well,
it's the bore, the freaking bore over height axis is ludicrous. Ludicrous, right? The 226 is just not a good, I'm not saying it's a badly made gun. Swiss are amazing engineers. I'm saying it's poorly designed for the shooter. One of the things Gaston Glock did, I mean, he was an engineer. He was a smart guy. By the way, do you know why he made the frame out of plastic?
No, I don't.
So before Gaston made Glocks, guess what he was making?
I'm going to assume something with plastic.
Those Glock knives.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
He's making that plastic handle.
Okay.
Like, dude, I've been injection molding plastic. I can make a frame out of that. And everyone's like, no, you can't. It won't work. He's like, yeah, I work in plastics. You don't. Go fuck yourself. And he figured it out,
right.
And but what's interesting about Gaston is, and again, this is just, everyone should do what I'm about to say. This is what sparks innovation. Gaston was an engineer, and he went, all right, I'm going to design this. Literally, by the way, he built it in this garage. Right. I think he bought 6 guns. Was like, engineering wise, that makes sense. That's dumb as shit. I can do something better. But then he makes this design that made sense engineering wise. He's like, this is a good engineered gun.
Right.
And then he went, but I don't know anything about shooting. So then he brought in all these shooters, military people, and end users. Oh, fuck. Crazy idea. Get the end user opinion. And he went, shoot this and tell me what I need to change to make it a better gun to shoot.
Sure.
And they all gave him feedback. So then you had this hybrid of this really smart, innovative engineer taking feedback from the end user who were shooters, and then he just incorporated their feedback.
Yeah. That's the right way to do it.
And that gave us Glock. And so which was, if you really think about it, it was light years ahead at its time. But they haven't changed anything for a long time, and they haven't left it open. And
now it's funny that. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, SIG has really, come on board and done a lot of amazing stuff. And, you're seeing a lot of people make these hard statements now where, they make a mistake. There was a big one that recently happened with someone where they made a mistake and then they, kind of doubled down on that mistake. Dude, people make mistakes. If you make a mistake, it's like I use the Hugh Grant situation. You're old enough to remember that, if you don't know Hugh Grant, he was a very big actor, one of the bigger actors at the time, got caught with a prostitute while he was with one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood at the time.
Yeah.
And went on the Tonight Show, I believe, that night, and they asked him about it, and he was just like, I fucked up.
Yeah.
And everyone went, okay, no one.
And that's it.
Shit. No one ever talked about it again.
Right. And that's the problem that I have with SIG right now. I'm disappointed in their stance. Instead of saying what they said and calling the people that are having issues an anti-gun person, they should have said, listen, we don't find the problem yet, but we are dedicated to finding a problem and solving it, because there are people out there who are stating it. And if they said that, everyone would have been like, honorable thing to do. Keep going. We support you. But instead, they come out there and they make this statement and basically say, nah, it doesn't happen. Well, it does happen.
In my experience dealing with, whether it's Hollywood or corporations in general, and again, I'm not going to speak for them, but I'm going to bet what happened was you probably had a lot of people at SIG going, dude, I hope it's not an issue, but if it is, we need to fix it. You probably also had people at SIG going, you know what, dude, let's grab those people, put a social media thing out that says, hey, come here to the factory. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put you on camera. We'll film it. And if you can get it to do the same thing, we'll address it. Let's invite them out there, go to the factory, fucking all expenses paid. You can't tell me they can't afford it.
Right.
Come out there. And then those people, if SIG had done that, those people would have become SIG fans. They would have been.
Oh yeah, of course.
But they invited me to the thing. I got to go to Disney. I've been to the SIG Academy, dude. It's fucking Disneyland shooters.
Oh, it's great.
And by the way, that's one thing SIG does really, really well is their training academy. Really, I personally have been to the active shooter instructor program, the sniper program. I did several courses there. I recommend it very, very highly.
Yeah, we went up there.
Great facility, great instructors. If you're on the East Coast, it's kind of a jaunt for the West Coast, but
it is. Yeah,
I recommend the SIG Academy.
Yeah,
I can recommend anyone.
Myself, Paul Taylor, Mr. X, and one other ZERT member from Pennsylvania went up and did the Viking Tactics Singleton CQB class a couple years ago, and it was Kyle, Chili Palmer, and Kevin Strickland. I think Kevin Strickland.
Yep.
Right. And it was an awesome course. We loved it. We had a great time up there, and he's doing that again this year. And I would love to get back up there to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too that I want to say, about the SIG Academy is, you're talking about what I'm going to call a shooter celebrity course.
Of course,
a shooting celebrity.
Oh yeah.
The thing those courses that I did at SIG, they weren't taught by shooter celebrities.
Right. Yeah.
But they were great. You know what I mean? The instructors were really dialed in. They really knew their shit. Again, I was really impressed. The reason I'm saying that is, look, dude, obviously Kyle's Kyle.
Oh,
but,
yeah, of course.
You know, people don't need to take a celebrity, course to learn, especially maybe if you're at a, level where you've done every, a lot of classes. You're at that point where you're looking for that last 5 to 10% boost.
Right.
And you're still, but especially if you're new or intermediate, dude,
100%.
you don't need that instructor for to learn. So I recommend them highly. But more than likely, there was some people that were saying that at SIG. And then there was the arm that is, can put out statements and was like, boom, I mean, hell, it could have been the social media department that talked to the, and engineering was left because, you could have engineering there going, well, technically it's possible, you know what I mean? They're like, well, really low.
Right.
Again, and look at the iPhone. I'm going to use the iPhone. I'm going to use the iPhone as a perfect example. How much testing do you think Apple does before they release an iPhone?
Probably, I would say a moderate amount, but not enough, because you can always tell as soon as you get a new iPhone, it's like a week and a half later, an update comes out to the iOS because something happens.
Well, so I think my argument is yes and no, and here's what I mean. I bet they tested a shitload. In testing. My point being is, as much as they can test it on their little micro Apple level, that doesn't equate to a billion fucking people getting it.
No, of course not.
You know what I mean? So it's like they can test the shit out of it, but there's no level of it's a billion people that are suddenly going through every part of it fucking day. So it's like, I think it might be this. And again, that's my assumption with SIG.
Of course.
I'm sure they tested the shit out of it, but then you give it to fucking, you sell 200 million guns. Again, I don't know the number, 200 million fucking 320s. Dude, theoretically, if it's a 0.001% chance possibility, you're going to find that once you sell 200 million guns. So it's and again, it doesn't mean the gun is shit. It means it may have a recall issue that you're going to have to re-engineer.
Of course.
But you gotta accept that it could be happening, and then you have to address the problem.
Exactly. And that's what they didn't do. Last year I went up, and it was an EDC class up at SIG, and I took my 365 macro, and I couldn't get through a string of drills without having failures every other. So at this point, they're taking my macro, and by the way, they were taking Kyle's macro back to the academy to figure out what was going on. Eventually, I put my macro down and I pulled out my P320 and ran the rest of the class with the same ammo all day flawlessly. So where I'm going with that, and this is what we've talked about at length, is while I have not had any problems with my P320 going off without me pulling the trigger, I am a sample of 3 because I own 3. That's great, but I can't say that there's not a problem because other people have. I hope SIG does the right thing for the future and addresses it the right way, and hopefully they have not done too much damage to their brand.
Here's what's interesting to me is, have they had the same? Has anyone had the same issue with an M17 or an M18?
There have been some reports from the military. So,
and the reason I'm saying that is, my point being is, if not, if I was SIG and I hadn't had any reports from an M17, 18, I'd go, maybe those people are full of shit. With reports on an M17, M18 from the military, I have to go, oh shit, we really need to look at this. That's
so I hope that they do the right thing. And, I mean, obviously, like you said, there's people out there that have made mistakes, and when they double and triple down on them, it looks bad. When they own up to it and they confront it head on, it becomes yesterday's news very quickly.
It's a non-issue,
Exactly. And people move on with life.
People, man, like, I fuck shit up all the time. I dude, people talk, you get, all, the whole, military with people talking about, oh, they claim this and claim that. Look, man, like, I don't think there's a single veteran out there who has done everything in the military that they wanted to do. I think the fundamental issue is what pushed you into that job was feeling like you needed to do more, like feeling like you weren't enough, that you needed to accomplish this. I can tell you from personal experience, doesn't matter what unit you're in, doesn't matter combat deployment, none of that shit matters. You're never going to feel like you did enough. I have a buddy who's done everything there. Literally, there is nothing more you could possibly do. And I have the conversation with him. Well, I just think if, and I look at him and I'm like, dude, that's ridiculous.
Right.
But then people look at me and go, dude, look what you did. And I go, yeah, but that doesn't, yeah, but I did that. So to me, it's nothing. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do more deployments. I wanted to go and do this other thing and this other thing. Like at a certain point, you just have to accept that job, that mentality, that it'll never be enough. And you have to accept that because it will never be enough and you'll never be enough. It'll never fill that hole that you're trying to fill. And so at some point you just have to go, it doesn't matter what I did. I can fill that hole now. I did do enough regardless, it's like, dude, how many veterans were, served however many years and didn't have the opportunity to go to combat.
To deploy.
What's happening. And it's one of those things where, dude, none of the things that you happen to, luck plays such a huge factor. And I just think, man, like we shouldn't judge each other for our character and accepting those mistakes and those flaws and see the similarities between how we're all trying to be and do better rather than separating and isolating each other based on these arbitrary, this person did this or this person did that. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately.
Yeah. So then let's kind of move to, so obviously we started this episode and we were talking about all of our, our thoughts on Hollywood. And like we said, you spent a good portion of your last decade or so in Hollywood, right? Like that's kind of why you got moved away from ZERT, as you started to get more involved with Hollywood.
Yeah, I've been working in entertainment since 2000. I started doing stuff, I don't know, 2010 maybe, but 2012, I think, was the first movie I worked on. So that was when I kind of started. 2006, I did a movie in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, obviously started on SEAL Team. And then I've been pretty much full-time in entertainment since 2017.
Doing that. Okay. Now, so was it during your time doing all this is when you've got a book coming out, right? You've got, or is it already out?
No, we'll put a link to the, does this air live or?
No, not live. So this will probably go out in a week or two. So
that's perfect. So I'll by that time the pre-order link will be up on Amazon. So I'll send you a link to that and we'll put up the pre-order link. So the book comes out July 15th, but we'll put the pre-order link up.
Perfect
for that.
Yeah. And the book is called Forged in Chaos.
Yep.
Is that what it's called? Awesome.
Yep.
And so you sent me a little synopsis of that, and I got to read that, and I was just like, wow, that's pretty powerful stuff. So I'm very excited.
Thanks. I don't know if you could use the word excited. I'll ask you a question. I'll see your opinion because I could think about it either way. No, I guess they're separate, but it's like, I'm excited. I'm a little nervous, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of personal things in the book.
I can imagine.
Actually, I'll go further and say the book is all personal. There's really it's going to be very odd. People that read the book, knowing such personal things about me, it'll be strange. But I did it for a reason. I'm excited because I'm excited for people to read my story, read my journey, and read kind of how I came to be in the headspace that I'm in today. And I document that journey in the book. I'm excited for people to read it. And I am excited because I'm pretty confident that many people that read my journey will help them on theirs. That's my hope. That's the intent of the book, and I'm based on the feedback so far. I'm pretty confident that it's going to help a lot of people.
Awesome. So Tyler, this is your first book? This is the first book you ever wrote?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's a process.
Yeah, I bet.
Let me tell you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
And so, okay, so Forge and Chaos, it's going to be available obviously in print and then also in ebook form, audiobook.
Yeah, I got to go record it here soon. We just locked the words basically. So I got to go record the audiobook. I didn't want to do it myself. I was going to have somebody else read it. I'm just not and I know this sounds weird. I was on a TV show, but I don't, and I put very personal things in the book. I don't know. I'm strange that way because I don't really like putting myself out there, but I do it. Maybe that's why I do it, because it's uncomfortable, but that's where growth comes from.
Sure.
But I'm on the cover. I was like, I didn't really want to be on the cover, but it's kind of stupid to put a random image on the cover of your book. It just doesn't make sense. And then the other thing was, I was going to have like a professional reader read it, and somebody was like, dude, because not a lot, but there's many sections in the book where it's kind of inside my head, and it's the things I told myself.
Right.
And this guy that wrote a book and narrated himself, he's like, dude, it's going to sound, those sections, and there's many in the book, are going to sound weird if you don't read them. And I was like, fuck. Like, you're right. It would sound stupid to have somebody else reading the thoughts in my head. So I'm like,
right.
I'm like, well, I am an actor. I guess, I should fucking read my own damn book. So
right.
I'm going to do it. Not looking forward to it. It's, it's kind of,
I'm sure it's a daunting task.
I'll tell you something, man, that's really interesting. This surprised me, what I'm about to say, but I was, when we were talking, working with the author, I mean, we spent literally every day on the phone on Zoom for about, hours for about a year and 2 to 4 months. And, I could be telling a story. I could be talking about the worst day of my life, or, worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I would tell it just like I'm talking to you right now. I didn't really have any emotion attached to it, which is not a good thing. It's probably a bad thing. I was just detached from the emotions of that situation. And then though, what's interesting is, so, we write the book over the course of that, over about a year and a half. Then I have to go back and read it now that it's assembled and all these different things. I have to go back and read it. And the editing process, took a while. When I went back and read it, I'm reading my story. Obviously, it's my story. Obviously, I know what the fuck happens.
Right.
But now that I'm reading it and not telling it or explaining it or trying to figure out a way to explain it, now that I'm just reading it as if it's a story, it felt like I was reading someone else's story.
Interesting.
Even though I know it's mine, like I said, I know what happens, obviously, but it just, there was now a slight level of detachment, enough to where I'm reading it and I started getting emotional at certain parts because I felt almost like I was reading someone else's story. And it was a really weird experience. So I'm not really looking forward to reading the whole book on the audio.
But I really like what you just said there, and I think that there's a way that people can kind of take that and use that. So, and what I'm talking about is where you said, when I finally read it instead of telling it, like when you're telling a story, you're telling it to get somebody else's reaction.
You're trying to explain it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. But when you're reading something, you're getting that reaction, and it's that's I like that. That's very interesting. That's going to be my.
And on your note, on what you just said, though, there's a great lesson from that, which is if you're trying to work on yourself, an aspect of yourself, you're having problems and you want to figure it out, journal it. And I know people say journal. Everyone says journal. It helps. Journal. Great. When I teach a tactical class, a shooting class, I teach the why. If you don't know the why, then you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yep.
but if you can't explain the why, you don't really know. You may be able to do it, but if you can't explain it and the why, you don't really know it, at least enough to teach it. And where I'm going with that is, why does journaling work? Why?
Right.
Great, it works. Why? The reason is exactly that. When you write it down and then you go back and read it later, when you're writing it, you're not really emotional about it because you're figuring out how to explain it.
Right.
When you go back and read your journal later, which is what you're supposed to do, which is why you write the shit down in the first place. You don't write it down well, that's not true. You do write it down partially to get it out of your head. But in my opinion, based on my experience with journaling and writing a book, you're writing it down, you're explaining it, you're getting out of your head, but what you're also doing is putting it on paper to where when you go back later, there's a slight level of detachment where you can now read it almost as someone else's story. And now the emotion from the situation connects in a way that maybe you were disconnected from when you originally wrote it. At least, and I think that would work in my general opinion for everyone. But I can tell you, if you're a person that suppresses emotion and has suppressed emotion, at least for me, since I was a child, it works infinitely better because it reconnects that emotion that, quite frankly, should have been there when you were telling the story to begin with.
Yeah.
Or when it originally happened.
Sure. Yeah. Awesome. So that book comes out in a couple of months. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to sharing the link for everybody else to kind of join me on this journey of reading that book. I used to read a lot, man. I'm gonna just be straight up honest. I used to read a lot, and I can tell you now that I'm an old man and trying to read in bed. I get about a paragraph to a page in, and then I'm out for good. So I try and read when I'm traveling on a plane if I have that kind of time. And
audiobooks they're so important. I randomly, I think my girlfriend talked me into Audible, I don't know, a year ago. And I was just like, I don't like, I like music, blah, blah. And then I started Audible and I'm like, dude, this is the shit.
It's the way to do it.
I literally listen to books when I'm at the gym. I know that sounds weird.
No, not really. I mean, it's probably a good time to do it just to kind of take that in. Obviously, people are listening to podcasts. I mean, the last book that I read, I read The Warrior Ethos, which was a great book. And then I've got the Hot Gates, I think which is just the Battle of Thermopylae. But
great. Have you read Hot Gates yet?
I'm in the process of it now.
Great
so yeah,
book.
It is.
Great book. It really does a great, obviously it's not fantastic. It's a more historical account of Thermopylae, or a fictional historical account, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. If you want if you want entertainment, go see 300. But if you want to just absorb it the right way, read that book. But so what else do you have? You got some other projects going on right now?
Yeah. So far as stuff that I worked on coming out, like I said, Accountant 2 comes out next almost a month from now, April, I think 25th. I'm not in that, but I worked on it, tactical stuff. Got the Netflix movie that I worked on coming out, I assume next year. I don't really, a lot of CGI that needs to be done. I'm working on another project that I can't talk more about that is the most exciting thing that I'm working on right now. I can't say more about it, but it's I'll tell you more about it when I can. But
sure,
if everything works out the way that I hope it will, it'll be awesome, and I'm super excited about that. The book is obviously coming out. I'm going to start doing a lot. I'm going to do a video series, kind of a daily video series in connection with the book. Kind of going back to what you said with I want to do, I like social media has kind of taught me micro learning, watching a 10-minute video every day or listening to whatever. I really dig that kind of short form daily micro learning / self-development. So I'm going to really, or I've already started working on it. So I'll be releasing that. So I'm going to do a lot of things in conjunction with the book. And then the last thing is been working on the Two Fake Seals project with AJ Buckley that we actually released that on, well, it'll be released by the time this comes out. So we start releasing that podcast on the 25th. So this will probably, it'll be out by the time this releases. So
and they can find, and anybody that's listening that wants to, so if for all of you that just aren't aware of that, there's a new podcast coming out where Tyler and AJ are on called Two Fake Seals. And that's going to be released on, go ahead.
Oh, well, because we played seals on TV, so we're like,
exactly.
We thought it was a funny name.
Yeah, and that's going to be released on Apple and Spotify, wherever else you can find all the stuff there.
YouTube, we got a YouTube channel.
Yeah, and that's funny, because I ran into you in January in Vegas for the SHOT Show, and
we were doing. That's right. That's where
you were doing the thing with Faraday Defense, which Faraday Defense is one of ZERT's affiliates brands, and ZERT members get discounts to the stuff over on their website, which is wild. And then it was one of the ZERT members, I think it was our POC in Arizona guy, Byers. He was like, "Hey, Mr. Gray is going to be at Faraday Defense," and I was like, "Okay, well, I'll stop in over and see him." And it's funny, you were engaged with somebody for the longest time, and AJ's over there talking to me. I was just like, I was like, just going back and forth with him. I listen. This is, I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize now. I didn't watch much of SEAL Team.
Oh no,
but that's because to me, David Boreanaz has just always been Angel from Buffy, so I couldn't make that connection. But I've watched a few episodes, and there was some good stuff in there. But so
should have made a crossover where he's a demon SEAL team leader.
That would have been great. I mean, I'm sure you had a lot of fun on the show, right? I mean, you spent
the wild 8 years of just madness, and it was a rough show to film. It was a lot of work, man. We were basically shooting a movie every 7 days, so.
Now,
it was a grind.
Are you relieved it's over? Are you sad that it's over?
But honestly, both. Both, because I'm sad for obvious reasons. A lot of fun, it was amazing opportunity, all those reasons. But relieved, it was just, man, it was rough. It was a rough show to film, and it was a lot of work. When I basically when we were filming, I had no life other than. It's just work. You're 12, 14-hour days, I was also doing, if I was just acting on the show, but doing, other duties and things like that, working as a writer or, what I was directing, it was nonstop, and I never got a break. So I'm relieved in the sense that, for AJ, he, was on camera when he was done, he left. So for him, he's like, dude, I miss it so much. And there's a part of me though that I'm like, oh, dude,
I'm sorry.
But it's my own fault. I pushed myself way too hard, especially the first 4 or 5 seasons. I burnt myself to shit. I mean, bad. I actually mentioned it in the book, but I just burnt myself out. Typical military mentality of, give 100% and burn yourself down and not take care of yourself and not say, hey, I need time to freaking, never say no. So that was on me. And so there's a little bit of relief now that, plus, there's a part of you that's always like when we were filming, always having to schedule around that block of 4 months or whatever. So, now it's like I'm open. Like I couldn't have done the last 2 movies that I did. Because it's just hard to commit to something when you don't know when filming is going to happen.
Yeah. And now, so I'll ask you this question. I did not get to ask one of the, so I had another dude on the show that did some time acting on a TV show. And do you know Rocco?
Oh yeah. Vince.
Yeah. Vince. Yeah. So he was on the show, and I never asked him the question because I know he did a couple of movies, but then he did the show. You've done movies, you've done shows. So if you got back into Hollywood, would you try and stick to just movies, or would you go back and try and get into a series?
This is such a Hollywood thing to say, but it depends on the project.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like dude, I just watched, my girlfriend and I just finished season 1 of Squid Games.
God, it's so hard to get into that for me.
Dude, once you get into it, that show is fire. Like it's so well done. I mean, there's some, Korean cultural nuances that are, you're like, well, that's weird. But then you realize, oh, that's just Korean culture, wouldn't happen in the US. But writing, direct, acting, that show is amazing. Absolutely amazing. It blew my mind apart how well done it was. And the look of it, it does, when you see even a shot from it, you go, Squid Game. They created an entire visual branding that I was really impressed by. So, it's like, that was a Netflix series. If that director fucking called me up and was like, "Hey, I'm doing a project," I'd be like, "I'm in."
Yeah.
I'll go tomorrow. I'll fucking fly to Korea. So it's like, it all depends. It's like, it depends on, it depends on in my opinion, it depends on the entire team.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just like Disney, I was, talking some smack about Disney earlier. If a couple, if it was like, it's Disney, but it's this people involved, I'd be like, okay, I trust, okay, it's Disney, but it's, what's his name? Freaking, my God, I can picture, created Iron Man.
John Favreau.
Yeah, John Favreau. They're like, well, it's a Disney project. And I'm like, I don't know. John Favreau. I'm like, I'm in. You know what I mean? Like,
Russo brothers. I mean, some of those guys. Yeah, that would be
exactly. So it's like, there's a, it's like anything. You hear who the team is, and then based on who the team is, you're like, I want to be a part. I want to be on that team.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, listen, man, we try and keep these shows to an hour to kind of keep everybody engaged and whatnot. And I could tell that we could probably continue on for another 2 hours. And that's the way that it is when you have a good show. But I really want to thank you for coming on the show today. Was there anything else that you had in closing?
No, I mean, I guess I'll just say where to find me. Tyler A. Gray, Gray, Grey on Instagram, and or wherever else you can look me up. I think I have a links.
We'll post your links as
all good. But that's it, man. Thanks for having me, and it's been ZERT Nation. Hello, it's been a while. And,
yes, it has. Awesome, guys. Well, listen, you stay safe, stay prepared, and until next time, ZP002 out.